We are live. Welcome to episode 5 of the MMAngst podcast. I am your host once again, Ben Cohn, as always, the South African Khabib Nurmagomedov. Joining me today is only Alejandro because Bilal felt traveling was more important than this podcast, which it isn't. He should know better.
He just had to take a plane.
Yeah, we will shame him mercilessly in the next episode. And since Alejandro plans on traveling in the near future as well, if he misses the next episode, he'll be shamed too. Alejandro, can we preemptively shame you?
No, you cannot.
Oh, well,
only when I'm not here.
Don't worry. We'll shame Bilal this episode, and we'll shame you the next one.
Yes.
Fair enough. We have some really interesting topics, I feel like. So we're going to be talking about fighters that would benefit from a camp switch. In particular, we have 4 fighters that we're going to be talking about. This is going to be Mike Perry, Lando Venata, Cody Garbrandt, and Jessica Andrade, with an honorable mention of Jake Matthews at the end. We're going to be discussing some reviews of the last 2 cards that happened from MMA. We're going to be talking a little bit about Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, as well as a preview of the next card, UFC 231, Ortega versus Holloway. I guess let's just jump right into it, unless Alejandro has something interesting and succinct to say.
No, let's go.
Why am I not surprised? Damn it,
hey, I'm always saying fun things.
All right, so let's just jump right into it. Mike Perry, the most interesting man in the UFC today.
The most Mike Perry fighter ever.
The most Mike Perry fighter ever is indeed.
There's no other fighter like Mike Perry. We can say that.
Which is a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure.
It's both.
It's both. It's both. There's certain aspects of Mike Perry we could definitely do without. I guess we should just jump right into the fact that Mike Perry is currently training at Jackson Wink. It was
sort of.
He did make a camp switch there. I'm not sure where he was before. I know he bounced around a little.
Yes, but he said that he had problems with Winklejohn and that they never meshed well. And I think he said he wanted to stick to training with Rick Little, but not necessarily with Winklejohn.
Great combo. Rick Little, the one who said body shot KOs are from weakness.
I'm sorry, shit. No, I'm getting the names mixed. They all sound the same. No, I don't remember the guy that Winklejohn was burning. Like he totally like.
Frank Lester.
Frank Lester. See, they have an out.
I don't
yes, he said
he was on The Ultimate Fighter and he lost his teeth in his mouth guard. He punched, his teeth came out with his mouth guard in one of the fights, and then he fought like a week later.
Wait. Okay, wait. You're saying plural teeth? His teeth, plural?
Teeth, like the whole up, like I think like from like K9 to K9.
Oh.
Yeah, and then he fought like a week later. He was on Dan Henderson. He was on the America versus England edition of The Ultimate Fighter, Dan Henderson versus Bisping, if I'm not mistaken. I feel a little bit ashamed to know that offhand, if that's all.
You should feel ashamed, though maybe not, because stuff is immortal, so it will just continue on forever until the earth burns.
Well, no, Dana said it would continue, so it's probably going to be canceled as of next week. Moving on from that, Mike Perry, he is someone, when we say fighters and their camps, we're not saying necessarily that they're in a bad spot or that they will just not have any success if they continue where they are. We're talking about where we feel they would do their best and where they would benefit the most. And I'm going to start with by positing that Mike Perry's best shot at becoming an elite fighter would be to move to Trevor Whitman, to train with Trevor Whitman. As we've spoken about, Mike Perry's a unique, put it mildly, individual. When he first came in, he was a wild lunatic. He relied heavily on his athleticism and just threw. and he threw hard and he threw consistently. And if you threw a punch at Mike Perry, you were getting 2, 3, 4 punches back thrown your way. And with his power and speed and just lunacy, he could afford to do that. We saw him go toe-to-toe with Santiago Ponzinibbio, a far more technical, also extremely dangerous fighter, not too long ago. And he did phenomenally. He made him work for that win hard. He hurt him bad. He wobbled him, and he acquitted himself very well. And he gave people a lot of hope, like, hey, Mike Perry's legit. And then his recent career. The more technical he gets, per se, the worse he looks. Is that a good way of putting it? Would you say?
I would say that 50-50, because he does seem to be making strides in order to be more efficient, and his choice of like the motions that he performs, they seem to still be sound. Like it's not like he's just being spastic all over the place, but he does seem to be more reticent to engage. Like they got it into his head that he had to think a lot, and I don't think that Mike Perry likes thinking very much. And I don't mean it like in a condescending way. Like I mean that he's at his best when he is feeling a situation and letting like one man take everything. Like he's not necessarily that has introspection. So when he's out there, mostly what he's going to be doing is acting and reacting in very quick succession. And what he was doing with Cerrone was trying to set up things in the way that you would set them up, like in a sort of academic way, that you start with your setup and then you make a follow through. And it didn't work exactly. I mean, he was winning the fight, and there's an argument to be made that maybe he could have won that fight had he just stuck to what he was doing. But then it seems like he just got frustrated, like he felt like he was being whirled in, like somebody tried to force structure on him, and then he just decided, fuck it, I'm gonna shoot for a takedown, see what happens. Like he was resisting this thing that was forced on him, and he did what he did.
Things. He's so weird. But what do you think of where do you think he should go? And I should probably explain my choice of Trevor Whitman, and it felt.
No, I agree 100%.
And from my point of view, I think we discussed Justin Gaethje is the premier example of why we feel Mike Perry might do his best at that gym, because
I was going to say the same thing.
Like Trevor Whitman shows that, like Justin Gaethje, we know what Justin Gaethje wants to do. And Trevor Whitman knew what Justin Gaethje wants to do, despite the fact that he has a not phenomenal, it's damn good wrestling background. He's a plus athlete. He hits hard. He's not dumb. He makes very good in-cage decisions for the most part. He wants to put himself in positions where he's going to take damage and dish out more. And Trevor Whitman knew that. And instead of trying to change him, he gave him as many tools as possible to make him as successful as possible with this style and take as little damage as possible, which is fucked up when you think about it, but take as little damage as possible with this style. And you could see he's also extremely flexible. I mean, look at the way Rose Namajunas has turned out compared to Justin Gaethje. And they're both Trevor Whitman trained fighters. So I think that's very important to note, is that he's flexible and he's able to work with different styles and different personalities. And I think that's very important. Now, Alejandro, take it away.
I agree with most everything you are going to say. It is to me really interesting that Trevor Whitman has managed to mold himself to his fighters to extract the best qualities out of them. Meanwhile, so many other coaches try to build fighters in their own image, if it makes any sense. But I think Trevor Whitman is especially qualified to treat like if he was sick, to treat Mike Perry, because he could convince him, like trick him to good ideas, I think. Like he's shown that with he can take somebody's like raw intent and build a technical game around it, as he did with Gaethje. And I think that Perry would benefit a hell of a lot of somebody that just let him run around and this is like put him in a fence, but this is a really like like in a fenced area, but a really like large fenced area, and so that he wouldn't quite notice that he's being molded into something. And I think Whitman has shown that he can do that, especially when you consider that Gaethje has this almost suicidal tendencies when he jumps into exchanges, and Perry's kind of the same. He doesn't have the same scrambling ability, so he would have to work on that. But he he can. I think he could follow that mold to an extent. I mean, yeah, Trevor Whitman is the guy for him.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Bilal did want us to mention, we'll be nice and we'll say he thinks that Cordero is a better fit. He's wrong, which is fine. It's okay. He's entitled to his wrong opinion. But just to quickly discuss that, why we feel Cordero is not the correct choice is that
I don't agree with him.
Yeah, I know. We can't. It's impossible. He's wrong.
He's wrong, and he's always wrong. And since he's not here to defend himself, he's conceding that he's always wrong.
Correct. So his point of view on this is very simply that Cordero's pressure game and his usage of his fighters' aggressions makes the most sense, and he can mold him into a fighter who would pressure effectively and would, essentially exhibit the template that is the Cordero style, forward movement, cutting off the cage, combinations with boxing, with leg kicks and stuff thrown in. The problem is that he's missing the jiu-jitsu or grappling background that virtually every single one of Cordero's successful fighters have these days, such as RDA, Verdum, Dariush, even Jake Ellenberger to an extent, who showed excellent progression both before and after Edmund Tarverdian, but he just had no durability left by the time he came back. Perry is young in the sport, doesn't have a combat sports background like every single one of these guys. There's just nothing there. I think that he could teach him to cut off the cage well, but I don't think that's what Perry needs to do necessarily to engage. He needs to work on his countering.
Yeah, but I will tell you why I don't agree with Bilal. And I think it's very, very, very simplistic take that I have, but I don't think you need more. Mike Perry is not technically diligent enough to embrace the Rafael Cordero style, because in order for you to work with the Rafael Cordero style, you need to be very technically sound and very diligent in sticking to one thing. And Mike Perry is raw and aggressive, but at the same time, he has different leanings. Like he likes counter-striking a little bit, and he likes leading, but he also likes
fighting.
Yeah, I do, but he likes it in all his facets. He's not linear enough that he's going to admit this very regimented style, because it looks aggressive, right? But it is a very regimented style, the one that Rafael Cordero uses. And I argue that it is very regimented because all his fighters, you can tell the seal of approval, so to speak, like the old Nintendo games that had the box that had the Nintendo seal of approval. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That Rafael Cordero has one, and he puts it on all his fighters, and these fighters reflect Rafael Cordero. And I don't think Perry would be so diligent as to stick with that particular style. I mean, he can't even concentrate long enough when he's winning a fight
to continue doing what's making him win.
Yes, because he just does things. So the best that you can hope, I mean, and I hope it doesn't seem like I'm being condescending, right? But the best that you can hope with Mike Perry is that you corral him so that you consider all possible avenues of reactions for him, so that every time he chooses to do something, it's something you have already drilled into him prior.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, like I think the one thing we can say, sorry to cut you off there, I think honestly just say that really sums up why he can't work with Cordero is there's one thing we can definitively say about Mike Perry is that he's not disciplined for the most part.
Right now, at least.
Yes, I'm not saying he never would be. I'm saying that right now he's just not there, and that's it. And it just wouldn't mesh, because if there's one thing we know about every Cordero fighter is that they are incredibly disciplined, and he just doesn't fit that. And it's a personality mesh more than anything else. But moving on from Perry, we're going to move on to Lando Venata. Well, not a former teammate, but he also was at Jackson Wink for a while. Now he's at, as Alejandro told me, he's at the BMF ranch. I think it's called BMF, correct?
Yeah. He's a BMF, and he's also at a gym.
Yeah,
doing his own thing.
So with Lando Venata, we were actually speaking a little bit before, and we kind of were talking about, I at first I was skeptical that Cerrone makes sense, and then Alejandro mentioned that Yair Rodriguez is also training there, and I said that I think that's good for Yair, because if there's one thing we can say about Cerrone, he's quite process driven to a fault, and still has the same issues that he's always had for the most part, even though he's worked on covering them up. But at the same time, he's very, very process driven in the cage. There's a method to virtually everything he does. And for Yair, I felt that was a good thing to learn process, even if there's flaws in it, but to learn process and to work on that. And then Alejandro's like, well, that kind of applies to Lando too. And I sort of agree with him there. It might be a good camp switch for him, because Lando lets the process get away from him. He'll start with a process, or he'll seem to be starting with a process, and then get engaged in a war. And whilst that has happened with Cerrone on occasion, he really learned his lesson in the Diaz fight, I would say, and has not really done that ever since that I can think of offhand. And Lando could really learn from that, because learning that to be cool and calm in the cage, even when you're getting your shit pushed, I held back on that. That was not acceptable.
Training Day reference.
Yes, that's actually, I was like, because I actually just
the bathtub scene.
Clicks on it. Not that particular clip, but it just I guess that's why it was in my head. When you're getting,
I really think about the card game thing.
You're getting your shit kicked in, and he's still doing it. He's still doing what he's like. Okay, the process is still there. The process is still there. The process is still there, and that's something fighters like Lando and I guess Yair, while we're talking about it, need. I don't really like. There's obviously stuff Lando needs to work on from a technical perspective, and hopefully he works on that as well. But I think from a personality perspective, we're seeing a lot more that fighters need to get to places where their personalities either need to mesh better with their coaches, or have something trained into or out of them. And Lando is one of those guys who needs process trained into him. And that's where I think he can do it. I do think there are other places that can do it as well, but his choice to go to BMF Ranch in addition to where he's doing now, where he's got his own camp going, I think that's a really good, solid choice. Alejandro?
Yeah, I agree mostly with that. What I will say is that Lando is a strange fighter, in that you watch what you step back a little bit and watch every individual thing that he does. He does it properly. I mean, even I'm saying individual thing. Like, for example, can he throw a jab? Can he throw a cross?
Yeah.
Can he throw a kick? Like, all these parts individually, they are sound. Even when he was fighting Tony Ferguson, and when he was fighting John McDessie, or when he was fighting Bobby Green, you saw him engage in things that are technically sound. Like, for example, he has fair trunk motions. He even moved his head a little bit to get out of the way. So what that tells us is that, like, there's like two different like sets of defensive strategies, right? Okay. Like, one is entirely what was it, distance based. Okay. Like, how far do you keep the target of your opponent I mean, where are you located? Like your head, your body, whatever. And the other is contextual, in which you are sticking to your close range. And he's pretty decent with both. Like he's shown he can be pretty decent with both. The problem with him is that he's very responsible, defensively irresponsible, and demonstrably so, because you can see him getting clipped with shots that shouldn't be hitting him, because he's just irresponsible. He lowers his hands, his chin goes up, because people argue that he has bad cardio, right? Like, and we have seen him get tired, but that's not necessarily it. It's just that Lando Venata is a very, very brave fighter, in that he tries things. He tries to fight his way, and first of all, he fights without setting things up necessarily. I have seen him throw 2 straight leading overhands, like one after the other, like in succession. He will do those things. He will also wade in without properly setting things up. Why? Because he can, because he's a magnificent athlete. And it's another argument that I'm going to make with Cody Garbrandt, which is up next. But Lando has developed a lot of bad habits because he can get away with it. I mean, he's yes.
I think that's a better way of putting it, because coming up, he was able to get away with a lot more, obviously. And then he got up to the level. His first fight was Tony Ferguson, which is still insane how well he performed. Like, go watch that fight if you haven't.
Yes.
If you have, just go watch it again. I do think it's important to note, though, that like Lando didn't get away with stuff he normally could in his last 3 or 4 fights. He got away with it in the McDessie fight because it was so short. But I think that the McDessie fight actually kind of was damaging to him in a way, because he got that KO so quickly and was able to do that stuff so well.
Yeah.
He got the 8-fight win streak before the UFC, comes in 8-0 against Tony freaking Ferguson, has an awesome performance, loses, but he was supposed to lose. Comes in, wheel kicks his next guy, John McDessie, and then has that back and forth war with David Tamer. A much more Tamer is interesting because he throws literally everything with power, 100% power, but he's also a far more traditionally technical kickboxer as well.
Yeah,
and that's
David Tamer is everything that Lando is not, in that technically, that he is very, very structured, and he is very conservative. Like, he won't throw things.
He's very rote.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of the thing, though. Like, Lando has a bunch of rote things, but he chooses to fight a different way because it's fun, right? Like, they don't call him Groovy Lando for nothing. He does things that are fun. Like, he's very too willing to exchange, too defensively responsible. He just has plain bad habits, and he gets into these issues where he has problems managing distance, even though he has quite a lot of variety in close range exchanges. Like, if you watch what he does, like, he throws to the body, he throws to the head, he throws a jab, follows with a cross, he throws overhands, he throws uppercuts, like all these. I'm just talking about his hands
and elbows.
Yes, elbows. He does crazy things, like he throws head kicks in short range.
Yeah,
like he has developed.
He's gone from 8-0 to 9-3-2 in the span of 2 years.
Yeah, but that's kind of the thing. I do believe that he came into the UFC too soon.
I don't know, because I don't think he would have developed any differently had he stayed out of the UFC. I think he would have just kept winning the way he normally does. I mean, look at his record. His debut, TKO punches, first round. Second fight, submission, first round. A split decision in his third fight. Good for him. Then submission, TKO, and then Tony Ferguson. All of them in the first round except for his 5th fight, which was a second round submission via heel hook. And all of them are by different shit. TKO punches, rear naked choke, submission, split decision. Another rear naked choke, a heel hook, an arm triangle, TKO punches and elbows, TKO punches. Like, the guy had a wheel kick, Desi.
I'm going to disagree there because he could have gone to different places. He could have followed the Adesanya route, just soak yourself with experience. He could have gone to LFA, which has an okay level. He could have gone to the European circuit a little bit. He could have gone to Bellator.
But how would that have helped? But he was still training at Jackson Wink and still having success at that level. Granted, yes, if he would have struggled at a certain level, maybe he could have changed things up. But we saw him struggle against Ferguson. He dominated McDessie, and then he went to and then Tamor. And at that point, he should have been like, "Hey, there's something wrong with what I'm doing." And
yes, but fighters don't learn the lessons they have to learn necessarily after they experience the sort of traumatic events that led them to developing better habits. If you see Lando Banata's fights, like he starts from being this wild man with Tony Ferguson, and then he starts trying to rein himself in.
Right.
The problem that he has is that he loves his spinning shit. He is very extremely defensively responsible. He basks in it, in that you see him, his hands go down, his chin goes up, and he's like, "Come on, motherfucker, start throwing."
Yeah.
And they oblige him. They oblige him a lot.
I mean, well, yeah, because
he gets hit a lot.
It doesn't help that the UFC keeps putting him in with guys like Tamor Green and Frivola who are gonna give him a war. That's not helpful. They're not helping him by matching him with who they're matching him with, and they're just causing problems. Granted, I think he's now a free agent. I don't know if he resigned, so we'll see.
Yeah. But in my opinion, as far as what he needs to get better.
Final thoughts on Lando, by the way, and then we'll move on to Cody.
Yeah, but we need to say who will train this guy.
Well,
right? Cerrone, right? But in order for him to remain who he is, because the things that I see are good things. So, in my opinion, he just needs someone that will teach him a process, or to stick to a process, but also that will let him breathe, right? And play a little bit. But at the same time, that will teach him proper defensive fundamentals.
What do you think of Perillo?
Perillo would be good. Isn't he training Cyborg?
He trains Cyborg. He trains Bisping, or trained Bisping. He doesn't train any fighters. It happens to be. I think he kind of does like a core group.
Yeah.
But I would be cool with Jason Perillo.
Yeah. But it depends, because again, he needs breathing room. Lando needs breathing room to have enough.
I don't see Perillo as a guy who's super. I don't see him as a super regimented, like, yo, you have to do what I tell you type.
Like Cordero?
Yeah, I don't see him like that. I don't think he's that anal. I don't know.
No, but that's fair description. Okay, like that seems him, Perillo, and Cerrone, people that will teach him processes. But in my opinion, what's really holding Lando back are just character flaws, and that he just likes fighting this way too much. He just loves fighting this way too much. He has a crazy chin. He takes shots, and I think he enjoys it to an extent. So maybe, I don't know, like, I see the fundamental.
Are we sending him to Trevor Whitman too?
Oh my God.
Is this just
maybe
entire podcast of sending people to Trevor Whitman?
Oh man,
Trevor, we're just really big man.
Okay.
And with that, I mean, I think that where he's at now is a good call. I think maybe bringing in somebody like Perillo might make sense, but I would be cool with him staying at Cerrone's, at least for the time being.
Yeah, he does seem to be showing signs of improvement. It's just that the matchups have been punishing. But I worry that he keeps taking too many shots. Like, he's in that Jair Rodriguez spot where that defensive liability, those defensive liabilities that he has are going to come back to haunt him by the time he learns how to deal with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is.
All right. Well, with that, let's move on to Cody Garbrandt, otherwise known to thank you for this, Alejandro Garble. Now Garble is
I like Garble, by the way. I have a soft spot for him. I cannot find.
Does love Garble.
I like him. I don't love him, but I like him.
You gargle.
He's so earnest. Deep down behind all that browiness, he's a sweet guy.
He is. I mean, that kid who had cancer and he put the belt, that was phenomenal. It was beautiful. And I think it's important to talk about the things that we know about Cody. Phenomenal athlete, possibly chinny.
Possibly what?
Chinny.
Nah, I don't think he's chinny.
I said possibly. You can argue one way or another on that.
No, I'm going to say this. I think he has a great chin, but he just gets hit so much.
I don't know if you could say he has a great chin.
No. Look, wait. Let me make my argument.
No.
The amounts of shots that it takes for him to go down, like in the sheer quantity that he absorbs, kind of tells me that he can take a shot.
But he gets rocked.
His problem is that
with clean shots.
Yeah, but he recovers kind of.
Yeah, I mean
his problems.
He didn't recover though. He gets up and then
no.
Again.
Well, but you're getting like 30 punches in your head. Like he recovered pretty well in the second fight. He didn't go down.
The first one, he went down pretty hard and pretty quick.
Yeah, but he was pinning when he got hit. Imagine you're in a shit. I don't know what the name of that game, like where you grab onto something and then you start spinning. Like they have them on playgrounds. They shouldn't have them on playgrounds, but they have them. Like, is it like a wheel and then you spin on it?
Oh, a merry-go-round.
Yes, the merry-go-round. Imagine you're being in a merry-go-round and then somebody just extends their hand and punches you. That's what happened to him in the first Cody fight. Of course he went. In the first TJ fight, of course he went down. So, okay.
That doesn't mean he has a great chin. It just means that he was getting punched in the head while rocked.
No, the first punch that dropped him.
Right.
Like, of course he fell.
Right, because he got punched in the
head
really hard.
Okay, so can I just say that in order to set this thing up, I will say that the argument that I have that leads me to think that perhaps his future prospects are not that bright is that whomever is training Cody has not made the decision to separate the set of skills he's supposed to learn from the athletic gifts he came bundled with. So, I mean, the things that he's learning are all sort of tied to the athletic things that he can do on the dot, but he's not being given more. Yes, he's not being given more. Like the way that he enters
2-3.
Yeah, he has one layer, and when you get through that layer, he there is nothing more. Like he's not a complex fighter.
Correct.
He's a fantastic athlete. He has a fantastic set of eyes in that. Like he can just follow things. If you look at him, he can just follow things. But over time, he has evolved into this fighter that reacts with extreme prejudice, right? In that every time he sees an opening, he just fucking clamps down on it and tries to make the most of it. But there is goes from 0 to 100. Even when he stops, like look at his resets. In all his fights, he doesn't do anything in order to leave. Like that situation he's in. Like, for example, he's in the pocket. What does he do? He jumps back. He waits to the side or, moves his trunk a little bit, even though he's very stiff. Though maybe that's because his back is jacked. And then he leaves. It's like, imagine taking your computer, in order to turn it off, you just pull the cord every time. And that's how he resets all the time. There is no process to how he leaves exchanges. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's pretty much how you could describe most of his game in general. There is a process, obviously, and
yes, there is. He's a professional.
Right, and I do think it's important to note that one thing that I do like about Cody is that he could follow a game plan very well and very efficiently, and he could stick to it in an entire fight. We saw that with the Dominic Cruz fight specifically, where, just a quick note, after seeing the last two fights with Dillashaw, I think it's fair to say that Dominic Cruz watched those two and realizes that, hey, there's only one layer there and can beat Cody. I think Cruz would beat Cody in a rematch unless he's so physically diminished at this point that he just can't. If Cruz has been in a similar place where he was in the first Cody fight, I would pick Cruz in the rematch. Just because Cruz is also a process-driven fighter, and he's also a very good He has an incredible fight IQ, I would say, overall. He was winning by the end of the fight. He adjusted.
Cruz?
Yeah, he was adjusting.
He did very well. Like, I was surprised when I rewatched the fight. The first 2 rounds, he was doing okay. He wasn't necessarily winning, but he was in there. Then there was a clash of heads. His bro split open, and he was just like, fuck it, I need to fight because these judges are not going to give me anything. So that's what he did. And it's interesting also that you mentioned that fight because I remember something Goldie said Justin Buchholz told him. I quote, Cody is fast enough to close and hurt him.
To what and hurt him?
To close and hurt him. I mean, he meant the distance. Mind you, I'm quoting Goldie, who is quoting Buchholz. So maybe Goldie fucked it up in there.
It's a fair assumption. That's a good point.
But figure what that means. But figure what that means. He's speaking of his athletic gifts. Like they are relying on him building a game around something that he never developed either on his own, right?
Yeah.
Or something somebody else taught him. So he's relying, all his game is built on something that he did not earn and will, just fade in time.
I agree. And now we come to the question of, we've spoken about Cody as a fighter. Where do you think he should go? Because I have a theory here. I would like to see
other than Trevor Whitman.
I would like to see Cody go to TriStar.
Oh wow, that's a bold suggestion.
But what do you
I like it, but I don't. No. You know what? I like it. Forget what I was going to say. I like it. That is very sound because Firas Zahavi is a very process-minded individual, and he wants you to have fundamentals.
Correct.
He wants you to have fundamentals, and he is willing to break you down in order to rebuild you back up. And Cody,
extremely trainable.
Yes, for all his exactly like you're saying. Like for all his issues, he is extremely trainable. Like all the gaps in his development that I can see are related to how he's being trained. Because if you notice, I watched the Henry Briones fight. And it was very interesting because he was doing things differently. He was moving differently when he was with Dwayne Ludwig. I was like, my suggestion, because this is like a fantasy scenario, was that he should go back to Dwayne Ludwig. But of course, he's not going to do that. He's with TJ. But you watch a Henry Briones fight, and all the problems that he has now showed in that he cannot take people pressuring him very well. He can be baited into making bad decisions. But at the same time, back then, he had like a layer and then the beginning of a layer. He was doing different things. He was, even the way he was moving on the cage was different. But this whole thing happened with Ludwig and Dillashaw, and then he went into the Team Alpha Male cult, and they have shaped him to be the perfect fighter to beat Dominic Cruz. But it doesn't necessarily apply properly to other high-level fighters. Like, do we really think he can beat? I don't think he beats. What's his name? He just knocked out Rivera.
Sergio Moraes.
Yeah, he doesn't. I don't think he beats Moraes. I don't think he beats Assunção.
I think Assunção beats him. I think Moraes beats him. I mean, Rivera might beat him.
Yeah, he can win fights.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
Can he be champion again? No, that's very difficult to say. I think, probably not. But if you put him with Zahavi, and this guy just says, you know what, Cody, we're gonna start from scratch. Cody, he's probably gonna be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's. I think with that we can move on to our final choice, which I think is kind of obvious. Jessica Andrade, please go to King's MMA. Thank you. Good night.
Yes.
Learn how to pressure. Learn how to pressure and cut off the cage, and you will be unstoppable.
Unlike Mike Perry, she is built for that style, because Jessica Andrade will grab onto something and just keep doing it if it works.
Yep.
And she already fights like Rafael Cordero would train her, but with none of the technical acumen that comes with it.
And you know, I think it wouldn't hurt to, you know, have Cordero's technical, you know,
yes,
skills. The fighters that he has, obviously, to have some of those phenomenal pressure skills and coming in, working with other fantastic pressure fighters, and the fact that Andrade is also insanely durable at this weight class.
It hits fucking hard.
And hits fucking hard, and it gives him time to really build her up. He doesn't have to worry about, you know, in or her time. She hasn't been fighting for that long, if I'm not mistaken.
Or even running out of energy, because she has insane cardio.
Yeah. She's probably Cordero's dream.
Yes, she is. He would just look at her and say, "Oh my God,
yeah,
I have a killing machine here. What can I do to make her as beautiful as possible? Like the most beautiful murder thing that I have ever seen."
And I just checked. She's only 7 years into her career. She's in her prime right now. This is perfect. And I think it would prolong her prime, because she wouldn't have these issues with Joanna, so like that she had, where she was just completely outmaneuvered. And
mind you, she was injured. Her shoulder was torn in that fight.
That doesn't mean I don't think it mattered, honestly.
But psychologically, it's what she's holding on to.
Fair,
for that performance.
Fair, but that's the last thing she should be doing, holding on to that. But I understand where you're coming from. I mean, I don't think there's that much to add with Andrade. I think it's really obvious where she needs to go and what she needs to do. Unless you have anything specific to say, I think we can move on to Jake Matthews.
No, I pretty much agree with everything you said. Andrade is wonderful. But she's again, like Cody, she's coasting on the things that she already came bundled with.
Yeah, she's my favorite WMMA fighter, so I'm really invested in her moving to Kings anyway.
Yeah.
Moving on to Jake Matthews, who fought last night at UFC Adelaide. He fought Anthony Rocco Martin and lost by third round anaconda choke. He got choked unconscious. He won the first round, and then he displayed exactly the issues we saw him display before. He ran out of ideas on the feet, kind of mentally checked out a little bit, and started making mistake after mistake after mistake, and it cost him. We have a phenomenal physical specimen in Jake Matthews. He trains with his dad, I think. I don't think he's ever going to change his training situation, at least not now. He's young. He's marketable probably because he's a pretty decent looking kid, I would say.
How old is he?
I think he's 25, 26. I don't know exactly his age. Give me a second. I'll check on the interwebs. But he's young. He's 26 years old. Wait, nope, that's not Jake Matthews. He's 24. Wrong Jake Matthews. There's apparently a football player. He's 24. And he's been fighting since 2012. He's 6 years into his career. He's going to start he should be starting to come into his prime, and I don't think he's going to hit that prime. I'd like to see him move to someplace that like ATT, because his style is it's like a bad version of Yoel Romero's style, where he just explodes into everything. There's a very simple process, but it's not very good. It's the left hook and an overhand right, takedowns, emphatic takedowns, horrific ground and pound when he gets it going. But man, what he could do at ATT is the sky's the limit there. They've given the fundamentals. I think they'd work with him mentally. He'd be working with other incredible athletes that can kind of give him some really good work. I really want to see him move to ATT.
Yeah, but we have had another case of an athlete that was pretty much a physical specimen and didn't quite bloom as he should have in ATT, in Misrat Bektic. Why would Jake Matthews work there when Bektic couldn't?
Well, Bektic is, I think listen, I'm not going to say ATT is going to be perfect for everyone, and I don't.
No, I know.
Didn't bloom necessarily. We have to also keep in mind that Bektic blew out his ACL completely, and I think prior to that is when people were really excited, and after that is when people were like, "What?" And
I get it.
And it's possible that Bectus just didn't mesh.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm thinking more style-wise. I think that Jake Matthews can really. I would want him to work very closely with Romero. I mean, I don't think he's on that. He's not that level of athlete, but I think he's similar-ish.
Fair enough.
And that is, that's our lead into UFC Fight Night Adelaide. I think we should mention that the co-main and main events showed two Brazilian legends, one a little bit older and crustier than the other, come out with wins via TKO. Junior Dos Santos versus Tai Tuivasa. He pushed back a potential new breed prospect, and Mauricio Shogun, who just rubbed a little bit more shine off of Tyson Pedro. I don't know,
just light heavyweight and heavyweight. That's what happened.
Yeah, you just doesn't matter anymore. Like,
fuck young people. Fuck young people.
Yeah, I mean, JDS looked fine. He was countering shots. He was doing.
But he was doing the same thing he always does. Yeah. I'm going to get back myself into the cage and eat shots. Also, by the way, didn't I tell you? You keep getting knocked out in heavyweight, your chin recovers.
It's weird. Heavyweight's weird. And
how is that even a thing?
What frustrates me more is not Tai Tuivasa losing to JDS, because JDS, at least we know he's still a plus athlete in the heavyweight division. He's still got the skills, power, and all that stuff. And if you just run at him, he's gonna fucking knock you out. Tyson Pedro,
which is what we must have.
Right, Mauricio Shogun is not a plus athlete. He relies on his craft at this point while still being fat, slow, and chinny. And Pedro hurt him bad and then got taken down and lost like a 10. Like, everything. Pedro had every reason to win that fight and fucking lost it. Like, how? That was so frustrating.
I have no idea. Look, I didn't watch the fight because I feared for Shogun's health. I'm at that point where I don't want to watch him fight because I am afraid I'm going to see something horrible.
And he just keeps winning.
How? Like, how? Like,
I'll tell you what it is. From my point of view, I think it's very simply this. Everyone thinks Shogun's done. So when these young guys come up, like, I just need to hit him and he'll go down. When they don't realize that, like, no, Shogun's getting knocked out or hurt when he's getting caught in exchanges that or countered. It's when Shogun has been leading that he's really been getting hurt for the most part. I mean, think about it. Like, he got knocked out by Anthony Smith in a counter, on a counter. OSP caught him with the counter. He was getting hurt in fights where he's getting countered. He's doing the damage when he's countering, and people are allowing him to lead because he's slow. He's so fucking slow. It's something that needs to be pointed out, that he's winning these fights by being the one who's getting thrown at first, because he's covering up. His eyes are still there. He still sees these strikes coming in, so he's able to deflect and get out of the way of them enough usually. And Tyson was just closing distance rather than playing on the outside, letting Shogun come to him. He had the length, he had the youth, the athleticism, everything like that. He's powerful enough to hurt him. He just decided, I want to knock him out. I have to knock him out. If I don't knock him out, I'm going to be looked at as silly, because who doesn't knock out Shogun these days, right? And
he does.
Instead, it got him floored. And Pedro is a very flawed fighter in and of itself. Like, I'm not getting into that particularly. There's a lot of things that he needs to work on as a fighter, but I really feel that Tyson kind of screwed himself there.
I believe you.
I think we should also mention that Mark Hunt really needs to not be fighting, in my opinion. He looked...
No, I mean, that ship sailed years ago. I think he
just looked like he didn't care anymore last night. Like, he really didn't care. But
he won't retire. He says he's like 4 or 5 fights next.
Go to Japan and juice.
Yes.
Big against that, but like, go. Just have fun. Juice up. You're gonna fight.
Get paid.
Yeah.
Do New Year's Eve.
Yeah. Sadiq,
be on the Crow Cup diet. Also, we should mention Usman.
Yes.
Social justice Usman.
Yeah, I'm just going through the Adelaide card. We got Sadiq Youssef dominating Suman Mokhtarian. I looked at Suman's record beforehand, and it was a bunch of scrubs, so I knew that this was just a showcase fight. He was undefeated, but it was not a really good undefeated record. Moving on to, I would say, the Ultimate Fighter finale card. We should definitely talk about Usman being able to pull off the strategy that we know works against RDA. It just works. I love Rafael dos Anjos, but that 48-47 card was bad. I don't know how you did that. I don't know.
I can understand how somebody got confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least with the first 2 rounds. Like, I wouldn't give them to RDA.
Yeah.
But I can understand how they got confused. But after that, I don't see it.
It's not just that. Like, how do you score those 2 rounds 10-9s for RDA and then not score the other rounds 10-8s for Usman? The level of dominance that was displayed was a 10-8. And
it was 10-8.
Yeah, I agree more with the 50-43 card than the 48-47 card by a long shot.
Absolutely.
We had Juan Espino winning the tough heavyweight finale at 38 years old.
Whoever he is.
What?
Whomever he is.
He exists. He's 38, so he's young for him.
He's 38.
He's 38. He's young so he's young for a heavyweight, I guess. Macy, I can't pronounce her name.
Chiasson, I think.
I didn't watch The Ultimate Fighter.
No, I didn't. I look. The only good thing about that card, let's be honest, was one Aniki Ansad, whom I like, but she didn't win, unfortunately. Shouts out to her. And Antonina Shevchenko.
I would like to talk about her. I'll give you that. But we should mention that Pedro Munoz had an awesome fight with Brian Caraway before getting that TKO over an insanely tough fighter. And Joseph Benavidez looked freaking phenomenal. Yves Levine
he always does.
That was horrible. He stops the fight, literally puts 2 hands on Joseph to stop it. Alex Perez starts going for a single leg, and he just lets it continue. And Joseph's looking at him like, "What the fuck, dude?" Levine,
KO'd him twice.
You need to be reprimanded. Not just reprimanded. You do not ref for a long time at a top level. Tim Means looked fantastic against Ricky Rainey. I love Tim Means. Great fighter to watch. Roosevelt Roberts, standing submission by a guillotine choke where he made Daryl Horcher go horizontal to try and not be choked, but it did not work. Horcher's career is over in the UFC. He should go back down to the regionals. And now I'll let you take it away with Antonia Shevchenko.
Antonina Shevchenko.
People keep comments on the other fights.
People keep calling her Antonia, man. She's Antonina. Yes. I want to bring her up because I think she should be a textbook for people like Lando and Cody. In that, first of all, she's boring as hell, but because she's she's like a hospital. You know, like hospitals are antiseptic. Like they smell of antiseptic. Like she just goes to fight and she just takes this other girl and bores her to death. Her technique is shut down everything you're doing until you're powerless, and then maybe I'm going to start attacking you. But the way that everything that she's doing, like she's running this heuristic, like, by the way, first, like heuristics are, think of them like algorithms that don't get the correct answer necessarily, but they get close depending on how good the heuristic is. So Shevchenko is always finding this point of minimum effort but maximum return for it. And she's so technically sound. Like when she is coming in, for example, she already has 3 things in the back of her mind where she can extend, right? If you counter her, she's going to counter you. And she's going to probably counter you and force you to do something that she already knows what it is. If you're going to kick it because she has long, noodly arms, she's going to grab your leg, she's going to punch you, she's going to not even punch you hard. She's just going to take you down, work from there. If you get back up, fine. She's going to knee you. He's going to lean back. He's going to 1-2 you, and then he's going to keep just throwing those noodles at you. Noodles. until you just get frustrated. And if you get frustrated, you run out of options, and that then perfect for her. If you attack her, I mean, she needs to be thrown into a brawl. But that's a kind of fighter that should be seen by so many people. Like, did you watch her in lion fights by any chance?
No.
Well, basically, she's this Muay Thai super specialist, right?
Right.
And unlike her sister, she has this massive reach that she just can noodle you from afar.
I like how you keep saying
She, yeah, because those are noodles, man. Those are noodles.
Noodles.
Noodles. Yes. It's similar. What?
I did an Elmo impression.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Apparently I can do that pretty well, and I don't know.
Apparently you can.
I don't know why I discovered this randomly while playing with my nephews, and I just did it.
Yeah. Did you know that Did you know that the dude that did the Elmo boys got in trouble?
Please don't ruin this.
Okay, I'm not gonna ruin it. You look it up.
I can figure it out why. Please just.
No, let's not. Okay. So yes, like she has this lanky frame, and she just can noodle you from everywhere. Unlike her sister, like they're similar in that they are counter strikers, but Antonina can just work from any distance. She can be close to you, and she can do good work. She can be far from you. She can do good work. She can be hell. She can even be on top of you and just bore you to death. Like she's amazing. Like people should watch her and appreciate the boredom that she brings to fights, because you have so many people, because she's so technically sound.
She's a neutralizer.
Yes, she's a stifler. She's a stifler, and she's wonderful to watch. And people like Lando and people like Cody should just watch somebody like her and just learn to fight boring. Like learn boring tactics. Like, oh, I'm just gonna nap you from afar and see what you do. Oh, you didn't do anything. That's fine. I'm not gonna do anything here. I'm just gonna snap you again. And just keep doing this. And just let the fight, build up, build up, build up. And that's what she does. Like she's masterful at it. Like she will be the best 125er already as far as throwing hands is concerned. Like I have a hard time seeing who can beat this woman if you cannot force her into a brawl. And she's been fighting for so long. She's 34 years old. So she's crusty as hell, and she's been through the fucking grinder that you need to push her in ways that you don't understand, because you don't have the technical ability that she has. And she's just wonderful to watch. Like, I don't know who she fights next, but it will be very interesting.
All right. And with that, we'll move on to our final segment, which is UFC 231, which is happening next week. We're going to be seeing, we're going to be seeing the main event of Max Holloway finally versus Brian Ortega, which I'm a little worried about because of the whole reason why this was pushed off. And I don't know if you recognize the name, but Valentina Shevchenko will be fighting for the women's flyweight title.
Antonina's sister.
Yes, Antonina's sister. I'm scared for Max. When you get your first fight canceled because of a brain issue, even though they still don't know what it was.
They don't know what it was. They have no idea.
Yeah, and I'm nervous. I don't know what to think. I think stylistically, this fight is still phenomenally interesting to me. Well, not phenomenally. It'll be a phenomenal fight, and it's incredibly interesting to me still from a stylistic point of view, because what Max Holloway does is, he can throw away process when he feels like it, but there's a process to everything he does. And with Brian Ortega, there's a process there too, similar to Yoel Romero, but it's also how, when, or why am I going to get that finish? And everything builds to that finish.
Yes.
Every point of this fight. And he could be losing every moment of the fight and then snap a finish. We saw that with Moicano. Stylistically, this is so interesting because everything in my brain says Max Holloway should win this fight. His takedown defense.
Yeah.
He's incredibly smart. He's not afraid to engage, which I think is a really big part of Brian Ortega's game in a way, because people are afraid of his submissions, and Max is not going to be afraid. And I think that's what's going to make it more favorable towards Max compared to someone like Cub Swanson, who is terrified of engaging in the clinch with Ortega. And when you literally say, I cannot engage in any aspect of this, you limit yourself so much and it hinders you. I don't think Max will have that. But then again, Ortega keeps winning.
Yes, Ortega is kind of those weird outliers where we know what he's there to do. Like, even though he's very hard to read because you cannot quite tell how far he's coming his striking. Because first he loses all his fights, well, like all stand-up engagement that he's been having so far, he's been losing them. And then he knocks out Frankie Edgar, like with a very, very technically sound uppercut.
A hellish uppercut.
Yes, it was amazing to see. So he has that in him already, or so it appears. Like, it didn't look like it was an accident. Like, you can sometimes tell when people are just winging shots.
No,
sometimes they get lucky. And it wasn't that. So he timed him coming in, and he threw this glancing uppercut and just shut his lights out. And it's interesting to see whether he can do that. I mean, chances are he won't. Like, he's not going to, or as far as I think, win a stand-up war with Max Holloway at his best.
He's not skilled enough yet.
Yes, but he does bring this stupid threat, like the grappling threat that could potentially inhibit Max's stand-up choices, right? Because he doesn't know what he's going to do if he tries to tie him. And also, when you are that lanky or noodly as Max is, it can be for your detriment against somebody that is a skilled grappler like Ortega.
But that's the thing. Max is tall and lanky, but his arms are actually pretty short. He doesn't actually have very long arms.
As far as I seem to remember him having longer arms.
His reach is not that long. I don't know if it's because his shoulders are so narrow, but he doesn't actually have a very long reach. He has a 69-inch reach, and he's 5'11".
That's surprising.
Right? You'd think it would be longer because of how long he is, but
it's something. He fights long.
It's very long. I do think there's danger for Holloway because Ortega hits hard, and he's really good at placing his shots. He lands. Even if he's not necessarily winning the exchanges, he will put his hands on you. And Max, while definitely he has sound defense, he gets hit a lot. Like a lot. He cuts a tremendous amount of weight.
Yeah.
It's
probable. It's probable.
Very probable that we're going to see Ortega dethrone Holloway, and I'm nervous about it.
I'm not nervous about it because I like Ortega, even though
I'm nervous about it because
kind of weird. Yeah, well, but I'm kind of rooting for Ortega because his family comes from Hermosillo.
Yeah, but he failed.
Do you know that?
I don't like that. Yeah, but I don't like that he failed for PEDs.
Yeah, but he said, I'm sorry.
Did say you saw it.
It happened a while back. If you are going to fail for PEDs and you're going to say, I'm sorry, do it the way that he did because he made no excuses. It's been a long time ago. The guy's been clean. He's in the USADA program. He's as clean as Max Holloway, as far as we know.
Fair.
Right?
Fair.
Also, again, his family is from my city, like Hermosillo.
All right. I'll let you have this. And with that, we're going to both pick Brian Ortega to win this fight because I'm nice.
No, actually, I have Holloway.
No. You're picking Brian Ortega. That's fine. I understand. It makes sense.
Also, but one thing, assuming Holloway cannot compete, we're going to see Ortega versus Renato Moicano again.
I really want to see that fight.
I do. I
think Moicano's really coming to his own, and I love watching him fight.
The wonderful thing about Moicano is that he was allowed to develop in obscurity.
Well, because he's there's nothing interesting about him.
Except he's just fucking technically sound like Antonio Shevchenko.
Exactly. And that's the best part is that the UFC doesn't have to worry about contenders in the featherweight division. So they just basically could ignore him until they're like, oh shit.
We need a guy with a fantastic fucking record.
Yeah, it's just fantastic.
That can actually win the fight.
I really look
because Also, he was beating Brian Ortega until he wasn't.
That was a clear decision waiting to happen. 30-27, competitive fight, fun fight. Ortega submits him. And with that, we'll move on. Granted, Holloway Ortega really does deserve a longer technical breakdown, but we are pressed for time at the moment. So we're going to go on to Valentina Shevchenko versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk for the women's flyweight title. Right off the bat, I'm picking Joanna. Well,
that's interesting. I am not.
I understand. I understand the idea behind it. I think that Valentina Shevchenko's MMA game in particular is not the style to trouble Joanna the same way that Rose's was. She's very pared down compared to Joanna. Her striking game in MMA is very limited. She doesn't lead at all. Like, there's no leading from Valentina. She just doesn't do it. Rose did. Rose was willing to engage. Rose was willing to engage in the pocket and lead.
I agree.
And she knew she had to kind of scare Joanna off. Valentina's going to be very content to let Joanna come to her. And whatever you could say about Joanna, she's a fucking great pressure fighter. And her volume, I think, will overwhelm Valentina. I don't think Valentina is going to clock her and flash KO her. It can happen, but I mean, it's not like she's really displayed that kind of power before.
At 135.
At 135. But with Joanna cutting less weight, she might show a better chin. We see that all the time. And she's going to be faster than Valentina, who's going to now be cutting weight. And we know she already will out-volume her. We know she's far more varied in her approach. I struggle to see how she doesn't win a decision here.
Okay, I'm going to argue that she doesn't, because everything that she does isn't something that Shevchenko hasn't seen before. What we have seen so far from Shevchenko has been a very specialized version of her, intended to fight people that are much, much heavier than her.
Okay.
Right. So if we're speaking of another person engaging here, I can see why you say that, but the difference here is that Valentina Shevchenko has been doing this for so many years.
So is Joanna.
It's not that, but it's not that she has beat Joanna 3 times already. It's that she has beaten a lot of different styles already before she stepped into the UFC.
Well, what was her style when she was in Muay Thai as well?
What
was her style? Has she displayed a different style? Is my question.
No, but that's the point. She doesn't have to. That's my argument. My argument again.
I think she does in MMA.
Nope. I'm going to argue that she doesn't, because she is training with the noodly woman that I mentioned earlier, and she's going to be emulating Joanna. Okay, and I'm going to put forth the argument that there is nothing that Joanna can do right that Antonina cannot also do at least as well. She's noodlier. She's an emulator. Antonina is going to be her emulator, her Joanna emulator.
Might be right, but
also
we have had that in the past with fighters in camp, and it doesn't translate always. It's not.
Yes, but these people are in sync. They've been doing this for their entire lives.
So has Joanna.
I
don't think that's a real argument there. I don't think.
No, I disagree. Well, we'll see whether it's a real argument when the fight is over. But I think it merits mentioning, because whatever it is that Joanna is going to do. Also, what? Go ahead.
No, I said I think it merits mentioning as well, but I don't think there's any reason to assume Joanna won't have somebody emulating Valentina.
Yes, but they won't do it as well.
How do you know? You don't know who they brought in. It's ATT. They're very, very rich.
Yes, but ATT does not have anybody that can do Valentina Shevchenko, I think.
No, they might not have anyone necessarily who could do Valentina Shevchenko. What I mean is they also, I believe ATT does bring in outside help.
Yes, they do. But again, depends on who you're training for. Valentina Shevchenko is a hyper specialist. Like, also, people keep telling me, and mind you, I'm saying very concrete things so that I can be disproving when the fight happens. I don't think Joanna, as good as she is in the clinch, is strong enough to withstand Shevchenko trying to take her down.
I think
working there.
I think a lot of that
Then I'll keep going.
How much the weight cut was affecting Joanna. Like she literally almost died, apparently. It could be that she was draining the shit.
Yes, that is a fair argument. That is a fair argument. But again,
far more physical and looking like a person.
Yes. Again, that's an interesting thing to mention. But again, Shevchenko, we have seen her tussle with bigger women. Juliana Peña, she tussled twice with Amanda Nunes. That has to confer something. She exchanged with Amanda Nunes.
She exchanged, but she also, when there were grappling exchanges, she got destroyed.
No, she didn't get destroyed.
In the first fight, she was ruined until Nunes.
No, she wasn't ruined. She was taken down, and she was hurt. She got hit a lot. But by the end of the fight, she was still there. Her cardio was fine.
But that's because Nunes gases if she exerts any.
Yeah, well, that's Nunes' fault. That's Nunes' fault.
I think I don't really know how much she could do about that.
She did do something about that in the speeches.
She either has to be super conservative or try and finish you quick, because she can't. There's no in between. I don't think Nunes has a relatively high pace and also not gas. I don't think it's possible for her.
I don't know. Like I hear you, and I agree with that. But I don't know. I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. But as far as Shevchenko is concerned, I give her the benefit of the doubt in terms of granting her the possibility of having a lot of wiggle room as far as the things that she can do. Because when she fought Priscilla Cachoeira, mind you, Priscilla Cachoeira should be on the regionals.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, that was bad. But
learn from that fight for me.
The way, yes, except that we know that Shevchenko is fucking strong at 125. We know that she's more willing to engage. She has also spoken
zero, and I mean zero ground skills.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, you know that when there are fighters, no, I know, but I'm speaking of temperament.
Her temperament, right? She could beat the shit out of this woman. She's not going to be able to. She cannot have. That's like saying, like, oh, she had a tune-up fight against like a useless stand-in with no real chance of beating her. So she looked at me.
Okay, I'm going to give you a counterpoint. I'm going to give you a counterpoint.
You put Joanna
Tyson Fury. No, Tyson Fury. He had two shitty gimme fights, and then he went and fought Deontay Wilder, and for the most part, he outboxed him until he got cracked. Okay. And then there was that shady draw, but for the most part, he was beating him up. So this argument that you have a person that has been doing this their entire adult life, as well as their teenage life and their childhood, and cannot go out there and change temperament when they need.
For the record, the guys we fought were 23-1 when they fought him respectively, and 35, 4-1. One of them fought for a bunch of random alphabet soup titles. One of them fought Klitschko before, Vladimir Klitschko.
Yeah,
I'm saying, like, they got one of them beat Oliver McCall. Like, they've got one of them had some decent wins. The other one is kind of like a no name, but
yeah, but nobody was paying them to beat Fury in those fights,
right? But my point is that Priscilla was compared to Valentina, a literal scrub with no ground game. These were both professional boxers who'd fought for titles, but one of them fought for titles before.
Yes, but the argument, but it's not that their level of opposition. The argument that I'm making, the level of opposition doesn't really matter. What matters is the temperament with which she showed up. So what I'm saying is that the temperament that she has at 125 is not the same.
We haven't
level
seen her
of
fight anybody that could push back, so we can't say the temperament is different.
But we are speculating. The good thing is that I am saying very clear, specific things that can be disproven. Right. So what I am saying is that I have reason to believe, given her history of competition, given the fact that she's been competing at 125 for most of her adult career, and the fact that she has she has.
It was the first 7 fights, and then she went to bantamweight. And she had more fights at bantamweight than she did at flyweight.
No, I'm talking about her Muay Thai career.
Oh.
Somebody that is accustomed at performing at this weight. Like, to be, I would go as far as to say that we haven't really seen what she's capable of. I don't think that she's going to go out there and that she's going to put like a striking masterclass of offense. What I do think is that if she's going to go...
I'm saying I don't think she will.
No, that's fair. That's fair. But what I'm saying is that I do believe that she's going to go out there and she's going to be a fucking antiseptic, just like her sister, and she's going to shut her down. I think she's strong enough to shut her clinch, and I think she's technical enough to shut her offense. We'll see whether she does it.
I will also point out that she fought Joanna in 2006, 2008, and 2007.
Yes, long time ago.
Yeah, it looks like it was during her amateur career. It wasn't. It's like, you know.
No, it doesn't necessarily matter right now. But if you hear Joanna say it, she says it doesn't matter. If you hear Valentina say it, she says it matters.
I know.
But Valentina tends to be kind of boorish. I don't know if you've noticed. Like, she just has this air about her where she tends to be either she's very respectful or she's kind of boorish. Like, oh, Joanna says it, but she doesn't believe that. She knows she lost. Like, the shit that happened years ago.
Yep.
But at least she says it matters to her. Yep. So I'm really looking forward to that fight, even, which maybe I shouldn't, but I'm looking forward to it slightly more than I am to Holloway Ortega.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah.
I want to see.
Yeah, I know. I shouldn't. I denounce and reject myself, but I am.
Fair enough. With that, we're going to quickly do some quick hits because this card has some pretty good fights that I want to just do some quick 20-second analysis each fight. We're going to do the first one. It's the third fight, the middle fight on the main card. Alex Oliveira versus Gunnar Nelson. What are your thoughts? Go. 20 seconds.
I don't care.
All right. Fantastic analysis. I think Alex Oliveira will beat a returning Gunnar Nelson. I feel like...
Or maybe he doesn't. Yeah. He does what he wants. Yeah. He likes horses.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see what Gunnar Nelson comes back in with, what kind of mentality. But I feel like Alex is the type of guy to just catch Gunnar coming in or catch him with some weird shit. But I could also see Gunnar winning. I would say 55-45 Alexander Oliveira. Next, Hakeem Dawodu versus Kyle Bochniak. I got Kyle Bochniak frustrating and beating Dawodu.
Okay, I have no idea who the first guy is, so I'm gonna go with the guy you chose.
Thank you. Jimmy Manuwa versus Thiago Santos. Thiago Santos by a spitting shit.
I hope so. I like Thiago Santos.
Me too.
He's fun.
Big ass hammer on the middle of his chest.
Yeah, that's fucking amazing.
Gadelia versus Ansarov. I got Gadelia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do too.
I think submission first or second.
Or he gets tired and loses.
Caitlin Chukagian versus Jessica I. I can't pick Jessica I. Chukagian.
Yeah, same. Chukagian is too technical for her.
Yep. Eric Anders versus Elias Theodoro, the Spartan, aka
Anders.
I think Theodoro out of solidarity with him.
Well, if this is about solidarity, fuck Eric Anders, Elias Theodoro.
Yeah, like I got nothing against Anders, but fucking yeah.
Nah, he's okay, but we like Theodoro. Fuck Eric Anders. No.
Skill-wise, I do think Eric Anders, the athleticism and the striking might be a problem for Elias, but Elias is tough as shit and also has insane cardio, his volume, and he will attempt to grind Anders, so I could see that working out.
Could work out.
Olivier Aubin-Mercier, the Canadian gangster versus Gilbert Burns. Fun fact, I met Gilbert. Really nice guy. Like him a lot. I'm nervous that we've seen his ceiling. In his last fight, he got knocked out by Dan Hooker, who's underrated as hell, but I'm not sure.
You know him. We'll go with him. We'll pick him.
With Burns, even though I like OAM a lot, and we might get killed by a certain friend of ours for that, but I got to go with Gilbert Burns.
Okay.
Devin Clark versus Alexander Rakic. Our boy,
Who?
Alexander Rakic.
Why is he a boy?
Rakic, remember? He's the light heavyweight guy, prospect.
Oh, the guy with the name. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
rooting for him.
Yeah. I think he'll beat Devin Clark. I think he's more technical skilled, and he's can match him athletically.
Sure.
Brad Katona versus Matthew Lopez.
Lopez. He's Latino, I think.
He, Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah, that's my reasoning.
Seriously, like
No, I don't know. I don't know either of those guys.
I want to point out that Brad Katona's Wikipedia page takes you to the Ultimate Fighter undefeated.
Just cancel it already.
Not his wiki page. It's someone else's wiki. It's just he lost in the first. He won in the first round of like the Ultimate Fighter. He took it to the featherweight bracket, and I think he won his division. So cool, but I got to go with Matthew Lopez. I do like him. I mean, he's on a 2-fight losing streak. He lost to a Sunsao and Perez by TKO, but actually, no, I'm sorry. I got to go against you, Katona. I got to pick Katona.
Okay.
Chad Laprise versus Diego Lima. Ooh, that's actually interesting for all the wrong reasons.
You're like listing fights where I only know one person there.
That's fine. He just got knocked
by
out.
name.
Okay. It's Lima got decisioned by Yushin Okami, so
The breeze, I get. No, you know what? Fuck that. I like Okami. If you beat Okami,
too, but he got his. No, I'm picking Laprise. I can't. I can't pick the guy who lost to Yushin Okami in 2018. And finally, Carlos.
Can I just say something that has nothing to do with anything? Yushin Okami was once interviewed by Sherdog when he was going to fight, I think, Anderson Silva.
Okay.
And they asked him what was the most traumatic event in his life. And you know what he said?
It was getting.
He just shut up for a long time. He started thinking like really, really like deeply. And then he said, I don't think I've had a traumatic moment in my life.
What the fuck? I don't think he's telling the truth because he went to Chael Sonnen's house. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, the episode with his mother. Yeah, I remember that. But before that.
Thank you. Yushin Okami. Thank you. It's one of the funniest things. I gotta give it to Chael. That was unbelievably funny. And the last fight, though, we got to do this real quick. Last fight: Jesse Ronson versus Carlos Diego Ferreira.
No idea who they are.
They beat OAM and Jared Gordon back to back. Well, I mean, with a 2-year gap between Gordon and.
Oh, I misread. I thought they were two women fighting.
No.
The way you read the names, I thought they were two ladies. Okay.
Nope.
No, they're dudes.
Ronson's returning from his. He's not returning. He fought at one point in the UFC. Went 0-3. Fun fact: he lost to Kevin Lee. He lost to the truck, Michel Prazeres, Francisco Trinaldo, and then Kevin Lee. He's back. He's on a 4-fight win streak. He's going to lose to Carlos Diego Ferreira.
Okay.
So, yeah. And with that, we went a little bit longer than usual on this episode. I hope you all enjoy the episode. We had a really interesting conversation to begin with. I think we had some fun discussing these interesting fights that most of them Alejandro doesn't even know about. Alejandro, anything you want to say before we go?
Yeah, I'm going to do Bilal a solid.
No.
And I am going to read some things he wrote because he had something to say, but unfortunately he had to get on a plane because he had to visit his family or whatever. He's a good person.
No, you just ditched us. Stop it.
No, but it's funny. It's funny because, okay, yeah, just read the greatest hits. He said, I quote, just mentioned that Cody is the epitome of TAM bro fighters. 1, 2, Lando is the world's most luxurious tent. And with that, it ends.
And with that, that is another episode of the MMAngst podcast. Wishing you a wonderful week. Enjoy.
Thank you. Gracias.
Oh, God. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Weekend, all of it. Happy Hanukkah to those who celebrate.
Yes, happy Hanukkah. Feliz Hanukkah.
Feliz Hanukkah, indeed.